Hey, what's up guys? In this video, I'm gonna answer one of the most common questions that we get. Should I join an insurance alliance, or also known as a cluster? Now going into 2026, it's one of the most common questions. I'm gonna give you all the facts, all the kind of things about an insurance alliance that can help you, the pros, the cons, and then also what's gonna happen in 2026 that could change things quite a bit. So let's dive into the video. I'm gonna try to give you as much as I can, as much value, and hopefully guide you in the right direction to not make the same mistakes I've made. All right, so for those of you that don't know, an insurance alliance, that is a group, a big master agency and a group of insurance agencies or brokerages that all come together to work under a master code. This master code has direct access to carriers right off the bat. So if you join an alliance, 9 out of 10 times you're gonna have access through them, through this master code that all the other agencies have sub-producer codes underneath. You're going to have market access to most of the carriers that they already have appointments with. So this is a way to bypass getting your own direct appointments on your own, which is really difficult to do when you're first starting up because you don't really have any experience, you don't have a track record, and most carriers don't like brand new agencies because they're the highest risk to write bad business and cause them claims, which is the number one thing that they want to avoid. They want to be profitable. So this alliance is a kind of buffer in between you and the carrier appointments. It's how I got my agency started in 2018. Without my alliance, I probably would not be where I'm at today. So I'm going to give you all the facts, pros and cons, and like I always do, guys, I have no vested interest in you joining or not joining, so don't think that I'm trying to sell you on joining an alliance. I could care less. I'm just trying to give you the guidance as much as possible so that you can make the right decision for yourself. And I'm going to dive into some of the biggest points. Okay, so first off, I want to make it clear I'm part of an alliance called SIAA. I think they're one of the best in the country. A lot of other people agree. Some people disagree. It is what it is. I think they've been really instrumental in me getting access to the carriers and the appointments that I have now that have made us lots of money. So it's been really, really good for us and my agency. So that's it, SIAA, really big shout out to them. Now talking about 2026, going into 2026, insurance carriers have drastically, and most people are aware of this, rates have been going up. Insurance carriers are tightening up on underwriting. So the short answer is that alliances can help you get your foot in the door, but also know that going into 2026, because of the current state of the market, things have tightened up. So it doesn't necessarily mean things are gonna be perfect, all sunshine and rainbows if you join an alliance. There is still some restrictions, and you're not just gonna have magical access to the carriers. Everybody's in the same boat. The alliances, the agents, the brokers, everybody. Just know, but this will help you for the future as well. So I'm gonna give you the best pros and cons of the alliances, and I'm gonna speak in terms of SIAA, and most alliances are very similar in how they work. So let's dive into some of the pros and cons. All right, so here are some of the pros when it comes to joining an alliance. The number one, as I mentioned, is wide market access. You're gonna get access if they're writing. So remember, if the insurance carrier is actually still writing business, you're gonna get access to these carriers through the alliance. You usually have to submit to them first, they review, and they'll present you a quote to turn around and sell to your customer. But you're gonna have access to, let's just give you an example of a few carriers that may or may not be writing, but I'm just gonna tell you anyway. Travelers Insurance, Safeco, Liberty Mutual, the Hartford, if you're doing commercial. So there's a couple different carriers I'm just gonna name drop. Those ones you most likely will have access to if they're writing in your state. The next one is you're gonna get support from your master agency. You're usually assigned a direct contact within the alliance that does the personal lines business or the commercial lines. So whatever you're trying to do, this is great for new agents, especially because a lot of questions come up and you're not sure. That is a great way to get some knowledge and really feel confident with what you're selling. The next thing is resources for markets. As I mentioned, support and wide market access. If you don't know where to place things, a lot of times they can actually refer you to certain markets that are writing that type of business. Let's say you get a builder's risk, somebody constructing a apartment building, you have no idea how to write that or where to write that, they'll point you in the right direction and they'll help guide you into the right resources. Another cool thing that people don't really know about and talk about is the group. As a group, there's bonuses you may be eligible for. So if the whole group, because they're writing so much business through this one master code, there's a lot of profit sharing or bonuses that come from the carriers if they're really doing well with profitability. So if you do write a lot of business, let's just say as an example through Travelers Insurance, and the group qualifies for a bonus, you can get part of that bonus for the amount of premium you sold under your sub code. Okay, the other cool thing about it is there is some level of community. As an independent agent or brokerage, it's pretty lonely. State Farm and Farmers and Allstate, they have their group of State Farm and Farmers agents and Allstate agents that they all get together with. And independent agents don't have that. You're like on your own little island and you're by yourself. You don't know, who to talk to. And it's a sense of community that's really kind of reassuring and nice when you're in independent world. All right, let's talk about the cons. The cons are, the number one is the commission splitting. Commission splits are not fun. They take a piece of the pie every time you sell a policy when you're writing through them. Every carrier or every alliance is a little different, so make sure you understand your contract. The next one that you should be really aware of is long-term contracts. There are some of these alliances that require you to be on board with them for 10 years, 15 years. So make sure that is something you're comfortable with and you're in it for the long run. If it's not, some of these alliances are just not gonna take you on and it won't be a fit for you. So make sure you're very aware of that when you're signing up for an alliance and getting under contract with them. The other thing to be aware of, like I said, about the contract length, that is one aspect of it, but there are a lot of things in those contracts that you need to be super careful with. For example, selling your agency. Some of those contracts with alliances have restrictions when it comes to actually selling the agency. Some allow you to sell it completely 100%. They have no interest in it. Some of them have a first right or refusal to purchase the book from you if you decide to exit and get out of the insurance industry and sell your book. They sometimes have some vested interest in that. So be aware of all the things. I always recommend get an attorney or somebody who can review this legal document, this long, big, important contract before you make that signature. So it's really, really important you understand everything that's in there. The other thing to be aware of is some of these alliances have some larger onboarding fees. When I first started in 2018, it was pretty minimal, but I've heard people say some of these fees are jumping up quite a bit. It could be $5,000, it could be $10,000. I would try to negotiate that if you can. Do your best to try to keep that cost as low as possible, but some of them do have onboarding initiation fees. The next thing to be aware of is monthly membership fees. Some of these alliances have a monthly membership fee or a minimum fee. If you exceed a certain amount of commission, they sometimes even take more. So that is something to be aware of as you're managing your expenses and costs when joining the alliance. Those are pretty much the pros and cons that I wanted to share with you, and I'll give you a little more context about the current situation. There's a lot of insurance carriers that aren't even writing new business, as I mentioned right now. So is it even worth it joining an alliance right now? That's something you need to ask yourself, because if you do join, get under contract with them, every carrier that you get appointed with from them or initiated by them, they now have a vested interest in that and will take part of the commission. If you go off and let's just say bootstrap it, do it completely on your own and try to get these appointments, which is really difficult, as I mentioned, if you try to do it all on your own, now those contracts are all yours. You don't owe anybody an additional fees or cut a split or anything. It's all yours, commission's all yours. But remember, a lot of these carriers are not even writing. So the ones you really, really want, and most of those are the preferred business that you're gonna get through the alliance. The non-standard world is very much more open, and specifically commercial markets. Commercial markets are still very much open. Non-standard businesses through wholesalers or MGAs, they don't really require, or you don't need an alliance to join those or get a contract with those. And that's what I'm saying. So if you're on the fence about it and you're like, I might even actually like some of that non-standard, difficult insurance kind of risks or commercial insurance, my recommendation at this time in going into 2026, focus on starting with that, build up your experience, build up your book of business. Now you're gonna have a little bit of a track record and even some leverage to maybe get some of those more preferred appointments on your own once they do come back, maybe in 2027 or end of 2026. So that is what I would recommend. Maybe focus a little more on the more complicated, non-standard stuff, and build it up that way. So get your feet under you and start to build some revenue and premium on your books. The reason for them being so skeptical and not willing to appoint people, and alliances even are pretty skeptical and not even always taking new agents, is because new agents are the highest risk. You are the most likely that's going to cause this carrier, because of business that you're writing, to cause a claim. They always want to see your loss ratios. That's like one of the most important things that they always ask about. So really, that is the main reason. This could be a solution for you depending on your state. I'm talking a lot about in terms of California, because California is just messed up right now in terms of carriers' profitability. So they're all looking through everything with a magnifying glass. They're making sure that you are a top-notch agent, that you're writing good business. And they're taking extra precautions. So really wanted to bring you as much value as I could. If you do get any value from this, guys, please give us a like, subscribe, ring the bell, share this with somebody who's thinking about starting an agency and considering joining an alliance, because there is a lot that goes into it. Happy to assist you as well. Like if you want to ask me questions about a particular alliance, I don't know all of them. As I mentioned, I'm part of SIAA, but if you have particular questions about your alliance that you're considering, always let me know. I always recommend one more pro tip: interview multiple alliances before you make a final decision. There's several of them out there. Just Google top insurance alliances 2026. There's usually on the Insurance Journal. There's a list of all of them. And talk to the reps. Make a little checklist of what's important to you, like when it comes to their monthly fees, their commission splitting, the carriers they have. It's really important. Like always ask, which carriers would I get access to? If the number one most, the best carrier in your state is not part of their market access, like that's a pretty big deal. You want to go with an alliance that has that number one carrier that everyone's buying. So, commission splitting, fees, onboarding costs, contract length, the carriers that they have. These are all really important things, and put them all like in a little, spreadsheet, Alliance 1, Alliance 2, Alliance 3, Alliance 4, and then that way you can kind of get a good data set of like, this is the one that's hitting all the marks for me, and this is the one I'm going to proceed with. Do your due diligence. Don't go into this blind. You'll set yourself up for failure if you do. So that's all I got. Hopefully you got some value from this. Like I said, please subscribe. It helps me reach more agents when it comes to getting started in the insurance industry and not make the same mistakes as me. So really appreciate you guys. We'll see you at the top. See you soon. Peace.